Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of the second season of the LCLC podcast. In our first season, I reviewed the conference's storied past. As the LCLC's new director, I conducted this investigation as part of an effort to better understand the conference's appeal and its place in the history of American literature and culture. In our second season, I am focused on the conference's future, both short and long term. I do so now in order to prepare for our 51st conference slated to take place this February 2024. I always wish to understand how this conference can better serve artists, writers, critics, and theorists going forward, particularly as these communities evolve and take up residence in cultural sites beyond their traditional locations within academia. In this episode, I talked to the popular YouTuber Olivia's son. Olivia features on her channel educational video essays on a range of subjects, from feminism to aesthetics to questions of lifestyle, meaning, and morality. With social media now at the absolute center of our culture, I feel it is imperative for educators such as myself to talk to content creators such as Olivia who are working in this new space for thought. Over the last few years, Olivia has been pleasantly surprised to see her channel blow up with almost 1 million subscribers. Her individual videos consistently rack up millions of views. I began our conversation by asking Olivia how and why she started her channel.
There's nothing too inspirational to my story. The truth is, it was COVID. We were in a pandemic. I wanted to do something productive with my time, but there weren't any jobs or volunteering opportunities available. So I've always been someone who really liked public speaking and writing and sharing my thoughts. And I feel like I'm someone who just is always has something on my mind. And I had seen other creators who now do video essays similar to mine, and I guess they kind of inspired me to take on this, which I thought at the time would just be a COVID hobby. And I started creating video essays, and they ended up actually gaining a lot of traction. So now I guess it's kind of a side hustle.
Right. What was the first one you did?
The very first video I ever did was about this TikTok influencer called Sienna May, and it was about body positivity and this specific content that she made, and I was kind of taking a more critical eye to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how do you account for your success?
I'm never sure how to answer this question because honestly, for me, I feel like a lot of it came from luck. I mean, there are like thousands of people who start channels every day. And so I feel like 95% of that content is just lost out there. And for me, for the first at least 6 months, I think, I was not getting that much attention. A lot of my videos were getting 10 views, or even when I started to grow a little bit, it was still like 100 views or less. And I don't know, the algorithm, I guess, really liked me, and it started to push a few of my videos, and it was like out of nowhere, some of my videos started to get a lot of attention. So I don't really know. I know that's not a satisfying answer, but um, I will say I tried to always pick topics that maybe touched on whatever I saw was trending at the time. So I really was trying to see what was maybe popular in mainstream media, and maybe that also paid off eventually.
Mm-hmm. So why why do you feel that you're able to make videos, often quite long videos, about concepts such as irony and have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of views?
I mean, it's pretty crazy to me because we constantly talk about how people have decreasing attention spans and everything's turning to short form and people can't stay focused. and that everyone is turning to entertainment. Um, but if anything, I think I take my videos and their popularity to be a kind of hopeful sign that not all is lost and that there are people out there who are still curious and want to learn. Maybe they just aren't able to do so because they aren't in environments that are conducive to it, since we're constantly surrounded by things like distractions. But I think there's still a desire in people to want to know things, and I'm glad that my video is reaching some of those people.
Mhm. When you are putting together a video, what what's the process for you? Do you start by writing a script, or do you think about key examples? How does the creative process work for you?
I'd say so usually when it comes to idea formation, whenever I'm online, I'm always trying to look out for patterns or for things that people are, I guess, like interested in. And I'm also constantly thinking about what I'm interested in myself and what I've been looking into in my own time. And I try to like forge those two sides of my, I guess, idea research process to come up with something that I think would interest both me and like general audience members. And once I come up with an idea, I will try to look on YouTube to see if anyone else has done something similar already, just to make sure that I'm not copying content or I'm not making something that already exists. And then sometimes I might see something that is similar to what I want to do, but I think, oh, I can expand on it in this way. Or I think that maybe they're missing this perspective and I'm going to expand on that in my video. And after I do that, I really start to do research. So I really like Google Scholar. It's great that my university gives so much access to academic articles. It's really helpful. Any books or even my own lecture notes or papers that I've written can also be used for my research for my videos. I might watch other YouTube videos or interviews with professors. And then once all my research is done, I will start to write a script. And after I've written my script, then I film, I send it to my editor, and then it's up.
Hmm. So you do work with one editor to put these together, or is it a team?
It's just one editor. So I actually used to edit my videos myself as well. It used to be just me. But this year, so it's only been recently, but this year I got a video editor because I just got too busy with school, with work, and I really needed someone else to just help me out.
Hmm. And what I notice about your videos, they're very professional. They're very well done. You are utilizing not just recording of yourself looking at the screen, delivering your script, but then you're laying over the audio with still images or captures that are in the public domain or other informative material that you're supplying, like examples of the scholarly work that you're drawing on. Are you providing all those details to the editor, or is the editor just getting a sense of the Olivia Sun style at this point and rolling with it?
So I do supply the editor with basically most of the footage. Um, because that's why I didn't get an editor for so long, even though it is a lot of work to edit my videos. I like to have control over what I put out, and sometimes I have very specific footage that I want to use. But now I have like on my script document, I just add comments. So I'll like highlight a phrase, and then I'll be like insert clip, and then I'll insert a link that I want them to use. There are times, however, where maybe I don't have a very specific picture or clip that I want, so I'll just let them decide. Part of picking a video editor was really looking at someone who could imitate my style of editing and was able to like understand the content I was putting out as well.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of thinking of packaging Olivia Son and these video essays, which honestly, I'm just starting as a professor. I've been 25 years into being a professor and taught obviously a little bit before that. But in getting to know your work, it's the first time I've been introduced to the idea of thinking of these things as video essays. In as you are a creator of these video essays, who are you imagining as your ideal consumer?
I will say I think most of the time I am thinking of the younger generation as my audience, because I feel like I'm able to best communicate to them. And also, I guess I feel like they're just the biggest population online. But that's not to say that I want to restrict my content to solely them. And I don't think my content is also only accessible to them. Um, I think that, like, I've had a lot of people who are, not 20 years old telling me that they really enjoy my videos, maybe like you. And
Yeah.
I'm honestly really glad that my videos can extend beyond like people my age.
Hmm. One of the things that I notice is not just that you get uh, impressive view tallies when you're scrolling through YouTube and seeing what they're listing opposite your offerings, but that you get thousands of comments on each video, and often you'll get a comment and there'll be 32 responses, 100 responses, and it seems to be a very active community that has grown up around your video essays, or am I misreading what I'm seeing?
No, I think you're very right to realize that. Um, I think I'm not unique in this. I'm sure other video essay creators also have very active comment sections, but I do try to, I guess, make myself someone who would really like for good discussion to happen and for discussion that's like not out to just try and jab someone in the back and be like, "Oh, you're stupid." Like, I want people to actually think and to see from different perspectives and hear what others have to say. I really hope that my empathetic and open-mindedness shows through my videos, and I'm hoping that also translates to my audience who watch it and then interact with it. And it's really nice to see people leave so many comments, especially when they're really long and you think like, wow, they really put a lot of thought into that. They really spent that much time reflecting on my content.
Yeah, I'm amazed at it. I mean, where I see video responses that immediately come to mind, that are parallel, uh, are there. What I'm thinking of is when I listen to a music video, and it might be a very well-known song with a bazillion plays, and people there, and it might have a ton of comments if they haven't disabled the comments, but people are rarely expecting anybody to engage with the comment. It's just kind of like an autograph book in an odd way. They may write a note to themselves in a sense that they remember listening to this song with their dad, and now their dad's dead, and they'll always think about their dad when they listen to this song by the Grateful Dead, who they don't really like, but dad really liked. And and a couple people might go, "Your dad sounds like a nice guy," or "I would have liked to have gone to see the Dead with your dad," but that's about it. Whereas you record videos, for example, on the phenomenon of, I believe, what you were talking about as the sort of sad girl persona and how it developed on Tumblr. And you utilized your own journal or diary entries and reading them and showing them on the screen, which is it takes a lot of guts to do that, I think. but it inspired your audience to produce a tremendous amount of discussion about really intense personal memories and thoughts and feelings. How does that make you feel as the person behind that?
I think whenever I see other people being inspired or prompted to like share such deep things because of things I do, it really just reminds me to, I guess, do things that even if they make me feel vulnerable and scared, like sharing my diary entries, I should go ahead and do it if it does help or touch other people. Because sometimes it definitely gets hard, as someone who can create videos on topics that can be controversial, it can be scary because you don't know what people are going to say. You don't know if people are suddenly going to hate you. And seeing people and being reminded that you do help others is a good way to like be able to keep going and be able to keep making topics on things I think are important, even if they might spark some animosity towards myself. I think that's the most important thing that's come out of it.
Hmm. You you're very daring, really, I think, in your approach. For example, I think your most recent video is the one on carceral feminism, and there you're very well aware of the fact that you are raising points of view about the issues that we could umbrella under carceral feminism. But it doesn't stop you. You just plow right on ahead and produce those videos.
I mean, before I released that video, I was definitely a little nervous. Like, oh my gosh, are people going to misinterpret what I say? Because something that I've learned after being online is that people will misinterpret what you say and will misconstrue what you say. Um, I've had people like take a screenshot of my video titles and just totally assume what I say without actually watching the video. But then they'll get like hundreds of likes and retweets on Twitter of people being like, oh my God, yeah, I can't believe she's saying that. And I'm just like, I didn't say that. If you watched even just 2 videos of my video, 2 minutes of my video, you would know that. Um, so I think you just have to really build tough skin if you're going to be online. And I think I've gotten to a point where the numbers have kind of gotten meaningless, and I've become less concerned about how many views is my video going to get. Like this last video about carceral feminism, it hasn't hit 200,000 views, which again I recognize that's like pretty good, but compared to my other videos, it's a pretty low number. But that doesn't make me feel as if the video was a failure. I still think it was something that I care deeply about and I think was really important to make. And I am trying to remind myself constantly that what I make on YouTube should be dictated by what I think is important or interesting, not by what I think is going to get the most clicks.
And you were another popular topic for you that you seem to come back to more than once is love, that you're interested in love and relationships and that sort of um, range of emotions that one thinks about in relation to love. Why?
Well, I think who isn't interested in love? I mean, everyone seems to either want it or at least has been conditioned to want it really bad, or is always taught their whole life that it's supposed to be one of the basic drives of human nature. Um, and I personally think that it is an extremely powerful force. And I just think it has so many connotations with it. Like it's so deeply put into our culture and our media and the way we interact with each other, and people, build their morals and the way are going to live their lives off of their conception of love. And so I think it's just this extremely fascinating topic to me that I don't think I could ever get sick of thinking about.
Hmm. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you and to start to get a sense of what it's like to be a creator of video essays is that I direct the Louisville Conference on Literature and Culture. And once a year, for 3 days, traditionally in person, and now I've added 2 days before virtually online, people that are largely academics, but the conference is proud of and sort of differentiates itself from other conferences by attracting what people, when they register, they traditionally put down that they're an independent scholar. But what we mean there is essentially they're a poet or they're a writer or they're an artist or they're an intellectual, and they want to come to the conference, and they may not be a professor, or they may have retired, or they just don't wish to identify that way. And they get together, and largely they do a kind of very conventional academic performance where they'll read a paper for about 15 to 20 minutes max on a panel where hopefully they've either curated themselves into the group, or I and my associates here who organize the conference, go like, look, 3 papers on love and the internet, let's put them together. And people file into the classroom, and then the people go up there and they read their papers, and then they use the rest of the time to have a conversation. And believe it or not, we get about 450 people who come to the conference and enjoy doing this. And what I wonder is, how long is that approach going to remain? And is it going to shift more to people wanting to share video essays of the sort that you happen to be an early adopter and, an exemplar at this point of producing educational video essays? What's your thought on that? Are they going to come together? Or are they going to stay apart?
I mean, I've had lots of people tell me that in their classes, teachers and professors have been increasingly using video essays in their own class and showing them to their students. I actually had a college professor ask me to speak in her class after she showed her class one of my videos. And so I do think that slowly video essays can be integrated more into like traditional educational settings, and I can definitely see them also working in conferences. I mean, if again, like back to the comment section, like clearly people do have some sort of desire to share their thoughts, or to share what they're thinking. And I think a conference is a great place to do that because you're actually in person. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Your style and the way you come across in your video essays to me is part of the appeal. It's not just the content; it's Olivia, and that Olivia is um uh it's the style. Let me give you one example that, as a professor, if I was going to introduce into the discussion that in order to understand irony, um, or in order to understand significance, insignificance, meaning, meaninglessness, that we need to understand the idea of postmodernism. And then I would say something like, look, postmodernism has a lot of definitions. some of them contradictory, some of them complementary. For the purposes of understanding Matthew Biberman's discussion of this, let me stipulate a definition of postmodernism. Postmodernism for me means this, and this for the intents and purposes of this discussion right now. Your style is to go, look, postmodernism, I probably have it wrong, like it's a really complicated idea and I'm just Olivia here, but I'm going to just roll with it. You can tell me why I'm wrong, but it's fear of meta narratives. And we're going to go with that right now. And that seems to be a very effective way of delivering your content. You're very modest in an odd way. And there's a kind of comic spin to how you deliver the material.
I think I've always when I started to grow on YouTube, I thought one of the most important things was to just keep humble and to remind myself, people may tell you all the time that you are the smartest person they've ever heard, and you're gonna have tons of views and people subscribing to you. But at the end of the day, I am 20, I haven't even finished university. Um, there are people like you who have done their PhDs, and I am not even close to doing anything like that. Um, and I know that I'm constantly learning. I mean, just the fact that I have the I don't like these videos playlist just shows how in even a year or a year and a half, I can reflect on things that I thought before and think differently about them. And so I never want to come across as some truth teller in my videos. I think my own experience with falling down a conservative pipeline where people online portray themselves as these truth tellers, these I know the answer to everything. I think it's really dangerous to give yourself that kind of authority. Um, so I really try to stay away from coming across like that.
Yeah, I think it's a smart and genuine, comes across as very genuine style on your part. You do a lot of these sort of edits, and it's very important to kind of recognize the visual cues that are in the Olivia Sun vocabulary. Where you hold your hand up as if you're whispering to the side, for example, the aside moment in the Olivia Sun video where you're like, I may know this from my ex-boyfriend. And are you aware of the sort of the signifiers that you're using, and you repeat using them? You have a kind of a Morse code in an odd way of the way you segment your material.
That's really interesting. I guess I never paid much attention to the visual cues that I've been using with my I guess body language. I actually didn't notice that about myself. I guess I just did it I guess subconsciously, or I just did what I felt was most natural or would appeal to people and keep them entertained. Because yeah, I think I talked about this in my video about drowning in entertainment, but
Mm-hmm.
as a video essay creator, it's yes, I want to make educational content, but if it's going to be in a video format, if I want people to actually stay and watch, I have to make sure that it's somewhat entertaining in addition to being educational. And so I guess throwing in those little visual cues or that comedic tone sometimes is my way of trying to get people to continue watching.
Mm-hmm. When you focus on subjects like irony, and you produced, and here you lifted your, I would say, taxonomy, to sound very professorial here, of 4 different sort of delivery modes that are allowing you to explore the concept of irony. And your examples tend to be focused, I won't say exclusively, but very heavily into social media, into YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and that sort of thing. Um, do you why do you do that? Do you not have again, I'm just an old guy who's just asking a question. I'm not really overly invested in one way or the other, but do you feel that older traditional movies or conventional sitcoms and television, and of course the old fashioned books, novels, even poems, are just, you're not there with it? Your audience isn't going to be there with it? Does it matter?
I think part there are like different reasons for why I tend to use social media. I think one of them is um people obviously still watch sitcoms, movies, people obviously still read books, but there's something about an example on social media that just makes it so quick and easy to understand. I think in a way that maybe a book isn't, because I feel like for a book, if I wanted to use a book as an example, I'd have to first assume that everyone either knows the book well enough for me to like use it as an example, or I would have to explain the book enough for people to know it. Same thing with like a movie. Whereas I feel like for social media, it's easy for me to just be like, hey, look, you know this celebrity. Here's their Instagram post. It's just one picture. Or I'll be like, oh, look, here's a 10-second TikTok with like text on it explaining what I was trying to say. And so it's just like a lot easier to get examples across. And also I just think I'm on social media, like I can't deny that. And so I will come across examples on social media more often than things in like a TV show as well.
Mhm. Do your academic studies now, as you're wrapping up, and congratulations in advance for finishing up your undergraduate degree, how much, I would have guessed you're a philosophy major, how much does your academic study bleed into your video essay content creation?
Well, you really hit the nail on the head. I am a philosophy specialist. That's like what I study. And I definitely think it does bleed a lot into the content I make. I really like philosophy, like that's why I chose it. And I think it's just one of those topics where you could explore so much and you could just explore it forever. And I think that really lets me, that gives me a lot of leeway for like video topics.
Hmm. Yeah, you're very good at it. I think that the video that you did on meaning and signification and bus riding in Kyoto, if I remember correctly, might be my favorite video of yours. In a good way, that particular video goes cinematic in the sense that when you are attempting to convey to your audience what it's like to be aimlessly riding a bus in Kyoto, trying to figure out what those strings are tied around the poles, you want to immerse your audience in a kind of simulation of that reality. Is What's your own feeling about that particular video and the possibility of you kind of moving in the direction of doing more sort of cinematic things?
I'm glad you liked that video, first of all, thank you. I really like that video of mine too. I think that just like topics related to significance and existence really interest me. Um, I definitely think that that's something I would love to try to do more in the future. Um, I don't know. I don't have any like ideas on it just yet, but there are some other channels like Philosophy Tube who do a lot more dramatic and theatrical types of videos that are also explaining philosophy. And I don't have the budget or artistic capability to go as far as they do um, when it comes to like dramatic explanations of deep philosophical ideas. But I would like to recreate something like mine own before.
Hmm. So the jury's out on whether or not Olivia's son takes up some sort of long form video movie making career. That might be in the cards for you, Olivia.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool, but I don't I don't know how good I am at making a movie. Um, do you have any ideas for me?
I I am. Do I have any ideas? I find. Uh, well, it seems to me that there's a movie about love that needs to be made by Olivia's son, that speaks to. Uh, you have to remember that at my age, um, that when I went to grad school in the 90s, that the feeling was that a only an idiot thought about Marxism, because Marxism had obviously been proven wrong, and we were at the end of history, and it was all going to be some sort of Bill Clinton-esque, where the world would just come to look a lot like Omaha or something like that. All over the world, we just all, enjoy Western capitalism.
Mm.
And that was going to be that. And so you couldn't talk about that anymore. So you could talk a lot about sex, so it was, and I grew up in other words, in the heyday of queer theory. One of my teachers was Eve Sedgwick, at a time when she was letting in a lot of queer theorists into Duke University, which was where I got my PhD. So I'm kind of the jaded old guy, you know what I mean, who's like, look, we talked about sex to death in the 90s. And although the strange thing is that we didn't talk a lot about love, you know what I mean? Like, we love to talk about sex, but we did not talk a lot about love. And that's why I'm fascinated by the fact that it may seem, and it does to you, that you're like, well, why wouldn't everybody talks about love. Love is, we all are obsessed with love. And I grew up with like Tina Turner, like, what's love got to do with it? We could talk about who's on top and who's on bottom and what the power dynamics of it are. But love, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, so it's fascinating to me to see that come back around, and be so captivating, I think, for you and other people in your generation.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are just increasingly lonely these days. I feel like a lot of people, it's really easy to feel isolated. Um one just because of social media. You spend a lot more time digitally than with people, and you also see others doing things all the time, and it gives you this illusion of like, wow, I'm the one who's like alone all the time, even though really they're probably alone just as much as you are. um, and so it really makes you crave like someone to be with. And I think also just when I was younger, at least, like I guess the early 2000s, there were tons and tons of movies like the Princess Diaries or like the Cinderella story, where it's all just about a young boy and girl finding each other, falling in love. And so it really shaped what I guess people my age wanted, as they got to like their teens and their young adult lives. And I guess, yeah, I think it's something that people really, really want. I don't know if you know anything about incels. Have you heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
incels, yeah. Like the whole rise of incel communities and people like Andrew Tate, who is against like being with a woman and supports cheating on women. I think it really shows how many people are so hurt by heartbreak or being left by someone that they love. Um, and so even if love has negatively impacted people, it just shows like how much impact it does have on people my age.
Yeah, those are very astute connections to draw, and gets you back to um, the part of your broad appeal is that you challenge your audience again and again, I think, to step out of their own frame of reference, even while recognizing the philosophical arguments that in another way that's impossible to do, but still, let's try to do it and think about how locking up men uh, in your video essay on carceral feminism, what that does to the women, and whether or not that actually is an improvement. In some sense it may be, but on the other hand, if you broaden your perspective to think about justice in other ways that might actually transform or repair the situation, and to push your audience into that, and then the same thing with your Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson essay, to think about the sort of toxicity that's out there, but not just to reject it or to cancel it, but to think about how to recuperate and how to restore and how to create two-way communications that are founded on reciprocity and acknowledgement of a kind of bedrock humanity for everybody involved in the situation, is one of the real positive and enduring appeal, I think, of your work.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. I hope I'm glad that that comes across because I definitely think another thing that really inspired me to take the approach I do to my video essays is that I saw so many people online, put themselves as like this authority that can tell you everything, or that they're very negative and it's like, oh, this side is just wrong. Listen to me. Um, and I think that that's really what stops people from making any change. It's just assuming that you know everything, that you're always right, and that you don't need to care about the other side because they've been otherized in your mind as the opponent to like beat. But really, we're all in this together.
Do you think that you imagine yourself walking away one day from doing these video essays, or do you think that this is something you're always going to do? And is part of the appeal knowing that you have the kind of audience that you have?
I have a lot of ambiguity, I think, about the future of my channel because at the end of the day, for me, I know a lot of YouTube creators see it as like their primary job, but for me, it's like my side job. I still take my school and my other job to be my priority. And when I go to law school, I don't know how much more busy I'm going to get. I don't know how much time I'll have for my channel. I'm going to want to try to keep it up for as long as possible. But if I had to choose between helping people out by being in the legal field and actually being an actor in it versus creating content online, I think I would choose being a legal actor, whatever it may be. Um, and I also recognize that the internet changes really quickly. Some people will be popular for a few years and then they might get replaced by a new person who becomes the new popular video essayist. Um, so I don't know how long also people will be interested in me for, but I'm grateful for how long I've stuck around already, and hopefully I can just keep it going as long as I can.
My thanks again to Olivia Sun for the illuminating conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider hitting like, subscribing, and perhaps even writing a review. Of course, above all, please consider joining us either virtually or in person during an upcoming LCLC conference. For more information, consult the LCLC website or reach out directly to me, Matthew Biberman, Conference Director. Thanks again for listening.